If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
How do I get my deals funded? Without pitching a deal. Do not make this mistake. Do not bring up a deal that you need funded in the initial conversation of private money.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by Windowsill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate investor Jay Conner. Jay has been in this business for over 20 years and is the leading expert on private money lending. Jay has rehabbed over 500 homes, and his private money investors average $82,000 in profits per deal. Jay is also sharing everything he knows and talking to other leading real estate investors on his podcast, Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. Jay and I sit down today and talk all things private money, how to find it, how to use it, how to build trust with your investors. There is so much knowledge packed into this episode, and Jay is just so incredibly charming. I'm so excited for you to listen to our conversation, so let's jump right in. Jay, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I'd love to kick it off with what first attracted you to real estate investing back in 2003 and how you got started.
Sure. Well, first of all, Kat, thank you for inviting me to come along. I'm so excited to be here to talk about my favorite subject, private money, because it's had more of an impact on mine and my wife, Carol Joy's real estate investing business than anything else. So what attracted me to real estate investing full-time in 2003? Well, I was actually raised in the mobile home business. Way back in the day, they called them trailers. Before that, they called them wobbly boxes, and then they got fancy and called them manufactured homes. So anyway, my dad, Wallace Conner, he's still living, by the way. He's going to be 91 years old next month. And
wow.
He's in the middle of building a 350 house new development at 91 years old, halfway built out. When I grow up, I want to be like my dad, Wallace Conner. Anyway, he had at one time the largest retailing company for manufactured homes, mobile homes in the nation. And so I grew up around that industry. I mean, my dad put me to work in the summertime when I was 12 years old. He had his own acceptance corporation where he financed the homes, and he put me on the telephone at 12 years old, calling and checking people's credit and talking to landlords and talking to the furniture company to see if they've made their payments on time. So I grew up around the industry. Well, in the early 2000s, Wall Street provided all the funding for the consumers that bought the mobile homes. Well, the whole industry, manufactured housing, fell out of favor with Wall Street. Wall Street cut off the funding. Well, if you don't have financing for your product, for your customers, then, you can't sell them. So we woke up in 2002 one morning and realized we had $22 million in wholesale inventory of mobile homes and had no way to sell them. And so it's a lot more fun building a new company than shutting down an old company. So we spent about a year liquidating everything. And I'd already decided prior to that, if I ever got out of mobile homes, I wanted to get into single family houses and be a flipper. And that's before HGTV even existed, which, by the way, that is not reality TV. There's nothing real about HGTV. But anyway, so Carol Joy and I bought our first single family house to flip, to rehab, flip, sell it in 2003, and we've been full-time ever since. In a small town here in Eastern North Carolina, our total target market's only 40,000 people, but we do 2 to 3 deals a month. Average profits are $82,000 on each deal, and I don't say that to brag. I say that to make a point. There's a big argument to be made to invest in smaller areas and be a big fish in a small pond.
That's a great point. I'm curious, because the market has changed a lot in the last 20 years. What were kind of some of your early challenges in the beginning of your real estate investing journey?
Putting my team together. And the team is so important. I started out running around with my hair on fire That's actually when I had thicker hair. And I was running around trying to do everything myself. And you can't do everything yourself. I mean, why do we get in real estate? We get into real estate, most of us, for wealth and freedom. And what does that wealth allow us to do? Well, what it allows me and Carol Joy to do is serve other people. That's what it's all about, is serving and helping people solve problems. That's the business we're in. But putting the team together, locating general contractors that you can trust, hiring assistants that can help you scale your business. Who's going to be my assistant, right? So Carol Joy and I, for about a year, the first year, we tried to do it all. And I tell you what, Kat, I'll never forget, on a Monday evening at 10 p.m. at night, I walked from the living room down the hall into the kitchen in our home, and I took a left, and there was my Carol Joy sitting at the kitchen table at 10 o'clock at night with tears coming down her face. And I said, "Babe, what's wrong?" She said, "I can't handle it anymore." I said, "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" She said, "I can't do all this work." She had bills, stacked, a foot high. And so, we get into this business for wealth and freedom. And so why replace a previous job with a new job? You just happen to be the owner. And so I made up my mind that night, Kat, at 10 p.m., I'm going to do everything to automate this business, put the team together to where I can get out of my way. And here's a writer downer. Set your team up so that you run it and don't let it run you.
Those are such wise words. And I think sometimes that's really hard for people to grapple with, right? Especially entrepreneurial people. They want everything to be perfect. They're hard workers. And it's, I think, a little bit more difficult for them to take the foot off the gas.
Oh, and I still, I am so driven, right? Naturally driven, that I still have a challenge. I have a personal challenge, and that is taking my personal foot off the gas. Well, you see, everything's delegated. I mean, really the only thing that I do are two things in the business. I make decisions based off of what do I want to offer on single family houses, and I'm in charge of the marketing. I love it. I love testing marketing. How do we get new leads and all that coming in? So I'm actually in the business maybe 5 to 7 hours a week. So what do I do the rest of my time? Well, I'm so passionate about teaching other real estate investors about how we do the business. So that's really where I focus most of my time, because I have dictated, delegated, and disappeared for the most part. And all my communication is in software as to the leads that are coming in, communicating with my acquisitionist as to what offers we want to make. But anyway, I'm sorry. That's a long answer to a short question. What was my beginning? The challenge, putting the team together and getting out of the way. When you get out of the way, it actually works better. I found out that all them people that I have brought onto the team, they do that stuff better than I do. So dictate, delegate, disappear, get out of the way. But you got to have a measuring tool. Don't leave it on autopilot without coming in. So you got to have built-in check systems, to make sure everything's getting done properly.
Okay, I love that. So what are some of your check systems?
Well, I have an accountability virtual assistant that she's called a lead manager. And if anybody's been in this business for any length of time, you know what a lead manager is. So what my lead, and I've had Trixie is her name. She's been my lead manager now, I think, for 7 years. And so her job is to make sure no leads. And what's a lead? That's a motivated seller that owns a property that's not in the multiple listing service, the MLS. So Trixie's job is to make sure all these leads coming in from all of our Google vendors. I do pay per Google search lead, and all these vendors that are coming in, that when these leads come into the system, that none of those leads fall through the crack, and all of them are being nurtured and talked to right away by the acquisitionist. Because here's a writer downer: time kills deals. Time kills deals. The more time that goes by between when a lead comes in and you getting on the phone to talk to them, the less likely you'll ever talk to them or buy their house.
That's perfect. So, Jay, you've talked about, your automation has bought your time back. and now you're focusing a lot on education, your podcast, all about private money lending. So I'd
Yes.
love to dig into that and kind of how you discovered it, what you're teaching, all that good stuff.
Sure. Well, private money, sorry to use the cliche, but was and is the biggest game changer um, of anything we've done since 2003. But you know what's interesting? I'll tell you a short story as to how I got into private money. I actually backed into it, not intentionally. And so here's how it happened. From 2003 to 2009, the first 6 years that we were in business, investing in single family houses, all I knew to do, Kat, was go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees, put my hands underneath my chin and say, please fund my deal, and pull up my skirt so they can look at all my personal assets and do a colonoscopy and pull my credit and look at my financial statements and all that mess. Well, that worked okay. That worked okay for 6 years. I mean, I couldn't close deals fast. I mean, today I make offers. I close deals in 5 days. We just closed a deal, a house at 106 Pilot Place this past Friday, and I didn't. We talked to the seller on Monday, so on Monday we closed it on Friday. But anyway, so using the local bank, it worked okay until. And by the way, it's hard to believe we still have handsets and cords here in North Carolina where you actually talk on a landline. But anyway, I picked up the phone in January 2009 after being in this business for 6 years. And I called my banker. His name was Steve. Now, Steve had been my banker for 6 years. We did a ton of deals. He'd funded a ton of houses for me in those first 6 years. And by the way, that was back in the day when you had an unsecured line of credit, can you believe? Unsecured line of credit. I mean, if you could fog a mirror, you could get credit in 2003. So January 2009, I called up Steve. I had 2 houses under contract. And I told him about the deals and the funding that was required for the deals. And I learned like that over the phone. Steve told me my line of credit had been closed with no notice. I said, Steve, what are you talking about? I said, we've been doing business for 6 years. Why are you shutting down my line of credit with no notice? Thank you very much. He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis by shutting me down with no notice. He says, sorry, Jay, we're not loaning out to real estate investors anymore. And so I hung up the phone and I sat here for a minute and I asked myself, Kat, a very, very important question. And I'm going to share this question with your audience. And I'm telling you, this question will fix, the answer to this question will fix any problem that you got going on in your life. I don't care if it's career, financial, health, relationships, it don't matter. So here's the question I asked myself. You know, the power's in questions. Quote unquote, I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem? Now, by the way, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity, I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem, right? Now, a problem answered can turn into an opportunity, but at the time, it was not an opportunity. It was a problem. So it's not who, it's not how, it's who. There's a great book put out by that anyway. So immediately when I asked myself that question, Kat, the name Jeff Blankenship came to mind. In fact, Carol Joy and I just saw Jeff Blankenship this past Saturday and his wife Megan and their 4 kids at a big a cappella singing event because that's what we do. So anyway, I thought of Jeff. Jeff was investing in single family houses in Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. And I said, maybe Jeff can help me with my problem. And so I picked up the phone. I called Jeff. I tell him what just happened. And he said, well, Jay, welcome to the club. I said, what club? He said, the club of the bank shutting you down. My bank shut me down last week. My first thought was, well, I'm talking to the wrong dude. The same thing happened to him. I said, well, Jeff, how you going to fund your deals? And he said, well, Jay, have you heard of private money? I said, no. He said, have you heard of self-directed IRAs and how people can use their retirement funds that they already have, transfer them to a self-directed IRA company, and then loan that money out to us real estate investors, and their returns are tax-free or tax-deferred depending on the type of account they've got. I said, what in the world are you talking about, Jeff? So I studied. So I knew he had told me something very important. I studied private money. What is it? Where do you find it? Where are these lenders? How do you structure the deals? I studied private money, and I also studied self-directed IRAs, how people can use retirement funds to be a private lender. And so here's what I did. Here's what's funny, Kat. In less than 90 days, I attracted $2,150,000 from private lenders that I obviously didn't have prior to. So the bank actually gave me a raise. And so I went about it, Kat, and I still go about it today without ever asking for money. And people ask me all the time, say, Jay, how do you have all that private money? You never ask for money. I said, well, it gets even better than that. I never pitch a deal. I've never pitched a deal ever to my private lenders for them to fund the deal. And they say, Jay, how do you do that? And so I'll answer the question. The question or the answer begins with putting on my teacher hat. My teacher hat. My teacher hat says private money teacher. And so this whole approach, this whole mentality, this whole mindset, people ask me, they said, Jay, how do you get started in private money? I can tell you I said, well, the first thing you got to do is own the real estate between your ears before starting to try to own real estate or own single family houses. So this is so important. This is so important. Lead with a servant's heart. And this is all about teaching people who have never heard about private money or self-directed IRAs and showing them a whole new world as to how they can get high rates of return safely and securely in a space, private money, that they've never heard of. Carol Joy and I now have 47 private lenders, individuals. So what's a private lender? By the way, I'm not talking hard money. I'm not talking about some of my best friends are hard money lenders. I'm thinking of Wendy Sweet and her brother Bill down in South Carolina, Carolina hard money. Fantastic, good Christian people. And I say establish as many relationships as you can with as many funding sources for sure. But a private lender is an individual, a human being, just like you and me, that loans money from either their investment capital and or their retirement funds that they already have that they're not happy with. And so it's all about teaching. So what I did, so in those first 90 days when I was cut off, the first thing I did was put my private lending program together. Now, what's that mean? That means here is the private lending program I'm going to offer to individuals, the kind of returns they get, how they're protected, how they can get their money back in less than 90 days in case of an emergency, and all that. And I'm going to go about teaching that program to people that have never even heard about this world, which 99% of the people walking around have never heard of this space of private money and private lending and self-directed IRAs. So, you go, instead of asking for a mortgage, you're offering a mortgage, right? And so I'll tell you a short story, Cap, how I got my first $500,000 in private money when I was cut off from the bank. I put my teacher hat on. I put my program together, and it was on a Wednesday night at 7:30 on 209 Barber Road here in Morehead City at the Morehead City Church of Christ. That's where Carol Joy and I have been going since 1988. So Bible studies on Wednesday night. And I walked in the foyer of the building, and I was looking for Wayne. Now, Wayne's already passed away now, but this was in 2003. And I walked in the foyer, and there's Wayne, and I walked up to Wayne. And this is a great example of how I never asked for money. And so I walked up to Wayne, and I said, and Wayne and I, we'd known each other a while. I said, Wayne, there's something I want to talk with you about confidentially after Bible study. Can we get together? And he said, well, sure, of course. So we have Bible study. Wayne and I get together. We walk down to the nursery. We shut the door. And here's the script, Kat. Here's the script. Here's exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And he did. He was the original Zenith television dealer. Now, if you don't know who the original Zenith television dealer is or was, that you're just too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. You actually went to Zenith and you financed your TV, and Wayne actually would come to your house and repair your TV. Anyway, I digress. So I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And here's the magic phrase of how to attract money without ever asking for it. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And Wayne, I need your help. There's the magic phrase. I need your help. I said, Wayne, you see, I've now opened up my real estate investing business to people I know and trust. And by referral only, I am paying insane high rates of return to people that want to invest in my deals and be a private lender with me. I said, Wayne, when you run across somebody that's complaining about the low interest rates on certificates of deposit at the local bank, and they're complaining about losing money in the stock market and the volatility of it, would you refer them to me, and I'll tell them about my program and my opportunity? So you notice I didn't ask for money. I asked for help. I asked Wayne to spread the word. And what do you think Wayne said? Wayne said, well, now, Jay, what you got going on there? What, how's this program work? What kind of rates are you paying? And I said, well, Wayne, are you saying that you and your wife might be interested in this yourself? He said, well, I might be. He said, what kind of rates are you paying? And I said, well, that sort of depends on the deal. I said, Wayne, what sounds high to you? He said, well, we're earning 3% in the local bank right now. And that's what it was in 2003. We're earning 3% right now. He says, I don't know. Could you pay, 5 or 6%? I said, Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%, but I can pay you 8%. He said, put me down for $250,000. So the next day, on Thursday, I went to Wayne and his wife's home on Country Club Road here in Morehead City. And I sat down and I put on my teacher hat, just like I've been talking about. I put on my teacher hat and I taught them the private lending program. What kind of rates of return they can get their money back in case of emergency, how they're protected and all that. Well, over 2 cups of coffee, that $250,000 became $500,000 by Thursday afternoon. And in that conversation, I asked Wayne to help me spread the word. And boy, did he and his wife spread the word. I don't know how many referrals we got of other people they know in the Rotary Club and et cetera that became private lenders for us. And then one more quick thing, Kat, I'm going to turn it back to you. Well, how do I get my deals funded without pitching a deal? Well, I'm going to give your audience the script right now as to how to get your deals funded without pitching a deal. So we separate. Don't miss this. This is critically important. We separate teaching the private lending program to people that have never heard of this space. Teach it to them. Do not make this mistake. Do not bring up a deal that you need funded in the initial conversation of private money. Here's a writer downer, quote unquote. Desperation has got a smell to it. I mean, the worst time you can be looking to raise money is when you need it, right? For a deal. And so we separate the conversations. So first you teach the program. You don't have to ask them if they're interested. I mean, if they're listening to you talk about the program, they're already interested. And then they're just verbally going to tell you how much they got to work with. Is it investment capital? Is it retirement funds? Do you need to introduce them to the self-directed IRA company for them to transfer their funds over, et cetera? So they verbally tell you there's nothing for them to sign. They verbally tell you how much they got to work. Now you're going to separate the conversations between teaching the program and then having a deal for them to fund. So Wayne told me he had $500,000. I let a few days go by. I wanted to bring up those 2 deals so badly, but I didn't. Separate the conversation. So I let 4 days go by. And now listen to the script. Here's how to get your deal funded without ever asking for money and without pitching the deal. So I call up Wayne. This is called the great news phone call. This is the great news phone call. So I called up Wayne. We had a little chit chat. I said, Wayne, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. Now let's stop right there. That's the phrase I told Wayne and his wife 4 days earlier. I said, I'm going to call you as soon as I can put your money to work. All right. So call him up, the great news phone call. Wayne, I got great news. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house in Newport under contract with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now, the funding required for this deal is $150,000. Now, the closing is going to be next Tuesday. I need you to wire your funds, the $150,000, to my real estate attorney's trust account, and I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's it. That's the end of the conversation. Kat, the most stupid thing I could have done is ask Wayne, do you want to fund the deal? Well, of course he wants to fund the deal. He's been sitting by the phone, and particularly when I have a private lender, a new private lender, and they're using retirement funds, and they've transferred those retirement funds over to a self-directed IRA company, they're not making any money until I put their money to work for them. So I'm ethically bound to put their money to work because they moved their money over to the self-directed IRA company at my recommendation. So, unpack that. I didn't ask Wayne for money. I didn't pitch the deal. I called him with good news. He's been waiting for the phone call. I told him I can put the money to work. I told him the after repaired value of the single family house. I told him the closing date. I told him that the instructions from the real estate attorney would be emailed to him to wire the funds. Boom. That's it. Or as my good friend Tom Kroll would say, bam.
Okay. So I have some questions here. There's a lot there. When you're first having this conversation with this potential investor and you're saying, I can give you 8%, how are you determining that number, especially maybe for somebody who's starting out in their private money lending, foray?
Yeah, I recommend 8% because that's the national average as to how much individuals are being paid. Like, for example, let me tell you where that figure comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of individuals will invest in a hard money lender's fund, all right? And then the hard money lender will take that money, turn around, and loan that out to us real estate investors. And the hard money lender will make their money on the points or origination fees. See, in this world of private money, there are no points. There's no origination fees. So the hard money lender will make their money on the origination fees. So they'll pay the private lender 8%. Then they'll mark that rate up, make money on the spread, and make money on origination fees. So the individuals that are investing in hard money lending funds are around 8%. So I pay them 8%. So that's where that comes from. And by the way, as a side note, Kat, I've been paying 8% ever since 2009. I still pay 8%. I paid 8% then. And people ask me now, they say, Jay, how in the world are you paying your private lenders only 8% when the market the interest rates have just gone sky high in the last 2 or 3 years? And I said, well, there's two reasons for that. Number one, I make the rules, right? I'm not asking for money. I'm offering an opportunity. I'm teaching the program. And so I make the rules. And why would the private lender want to be happy with 8%? Well, because right now, if they go to the local bank, it's about a 12-month CD, certificate of deposit, is paying about 4 to 4.5% right now. Well, 8% is a whole lot more than 4 or 4.5%. That's like double. Now, granted, back prior to COVID, the year prior to COVID in 2019, the average certificate of deposit at the local bank was paying 0.17%, right? But I paid 8% then, I paid 8% now, everybody's happy.
And then my other question is, so you obviously, you have your local network, you have your people that, you thought might take advantage of this opportunity and things like that. How can people kind of build trust in these relationships and trust in these conversations? Obviously, you have some very hard rules about separating like the deal from the conversation, and it's not salesy or anything like that. But how would somebody, if they feel like they're struggling to build trust, what can they do?
Well, if you don't trust yourself, who else is going to trust you?
Mm.
If you don't believe in yourself and know what you're doing and know, for example, the maximum allowable formula that you should pay using a private lender's money, then you need to get educated for sure. But in answer to your question, how do you build trust? People are attracted to other people that are confident. People are attracted to other people that come across trustworthy. So how do you build that trust? You got to be confident in knowing the program that you're teaching, right? What if you've never done a deal, right? What if you've never done a deal? And you're thinking to yourself, well, who in the world is going to loan me money and I've never done a deal? That's a really good question, right? Well, there's two answers to that. First of all, if you've already been successful in other things prior to, well, lean on and leverage your prior success. If you were successful in something prior, you're going to be successful at this, right? Secondly, leverage your business relationship. That's one thing that a lot of my real estate investing members in my mastermind and et cetera leverage the business relationship, in my case, with me. And they can honestly say, me and my business partner have flipped and rehabbed over 500 houses. And that's 100% true. Well, I don't have to be your business partner. Get somebody else to be your business partner. And for goodness sakes, don't start out in this business by yourself and trying to navigate it. Big mistake. Ask me how I know, right? I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because I wasn't in business with somebody else that had already done this or hadn't been educated. So don't make the mistake I did. Building trust, belief is, first of all, starting with yourself. And, at the end of the day, nobody's going to loan you money unless they do feel trust, unless they do feel like that they can trust you. Now, even with all the trust, we still give them security. Do not borrow unsecured money. You can legally, but don't do it. Protect your private lender. We give all of our private lenders, in North Carolina, it's a deed of trust. Most states call it a mortgage, but they get a deed of trust to secure the promissory note. They get a promissory note. We name them as a mortgage. So here's how you build in trust. You're protecting your private lender, right? You're protecting them in case, something goes wrong. Hey, look, here's another way we protect them and we build trust. Do not borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value of the house. I didn't say 75% of purchase price. We always pick up a big check when we buy and close a deal, but maximum 75% of after repaired value. We name them as the mortgagee on the insurance policy. In case there's a claim against that insurance policy, then the check by the insurance company is made payable to them, the private lender, the mortgagee, and to my company. Well, they got to sign off on that insurance policy check before I get the money. We put them on the title policy as an additional insured. So not only being trustworthy and being a trustworthy individual, perhaps leveraging a business relationship, they feel safe. I mean, the only reason somebody's not going to loan you money and invest is they don't feel safe. They don't think their money's safe. So those are the ways that we build trust so they know that their investment is safe.
I love it. Yeah, just tons of evidence, right? Hit them with the facts.
Exactly. One question you sent in, Kat, I really love.
Okay, let's hit it.
You sent in a question that said, why would someone be interested in becoming a private lender? I mean, we know why we're interested, right? I mean, why am I interested in even using private money and not going to the local bank? Well, there's 20 answers to that question. You're in control. You're the underwriter, right? You make the rules. You can close fast. There's no limit to the number of deals you can do. When I was borrowing money from the bank, there was a limit to my line of credit. There's no limit to the number of private lenders you can have. And, you set the program. It just puts you in the driver's seat, right? You can scale your business very, very quickly. But in answer to your question, why would someone be interested in becoming a private lender? There's three big reasons that people want to be your private lender. Number one, they make a lot of money. Money gets the attention, right? The second reason they love it is because their investment, their principal loan amount with you is secure and it's safe. How is it secure and safe? Well, it's secure by what I just said. We're not borrowing unsecured funds. We're collateralizing their note with a deed of trust. And then thirdly, safe and secure. So it is secure, as I just said, it's safe because it's a conservative loan to value. We're not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. The third reason they love being a private lender is because their investment, their principal loan amount, what they invest, is the value of it is not volatile. So what am I contrasting someone being a private lender with their money versus them putting the money in the stock market or mutual funds? I mean, whatever you invest in the stock market is worth more, it's worth less, it's worth more, it's worth less. So here's a writer downer. When someone loans private money, the principal loan amount remains the same until cash out. It's just like them putting money in a CD in the local bank, and they know what the return is going to be. That's the same program here. They put in $100,000. They know they're going to make 8% or $8,000. So that is why they're interested. And Kat, another question you sent in, I love, if you don't mind me answering it, and that is, what's the best way to find private lenders? Is that a good question to answer? What's the best way to find private?
Yeah,
So
let's go for it.
There's three categories of where you find private lenders. One category is what I've already been talking about. That's your own connections, people that are in your cell phone, people that are on connected on social media, people that are on your email list, people you go to church with, people you play golf with, people that you consistently see every week, right? We're all creatures of habit. Well, where do you go every week that you see? I mean, all those people, you've already got the trust built. The trust factor is already there. So that's the first, but you're going to run out. You're going to run out of your own connections. That's going to run out eventually. Some for us very quickly, some it's going to take longer, but eventually you're going to run out. So the second category is what I call your expanded warm market. How can you grow your network? Kat, I know your audience will agree that there's a direct correlation between your network and your net worth, right? The better your network, the better your net worth. So how can you grow your warm market? How can you grow your connections very, very quickly? Well, I'm going to give you two answers right here. I have many more answers. I'll give you three answers. I got so many running through my head. So how can you grow your network very, very quickly? Number one, overnight. If you want overnight, grow your network, do what I did. Join BNI, which stands for Business Networking International. There's a very good chance, if you're listening to this show, there is a Business Networking International chapter in your town. Morehead City, North Carolina, where I am, only has 8,000 people. We got a BNI. There you go. All you got to do is go to BNI.com, search your local area. You can find a BNI. What makes Business Networking International so wonderful is that each chapter has members, and the reason for the membership is to give each of your fellow members leads for the type of business you're in. And BNI truly only has one professional category per chapter available. So like here in Morehead City, there's only one realtor. There's only one real estate attorney. There's only one HVAC contractor. There's only one general contractor. There's only one essential oil lady. You know what I'm saying, right? And so you meet once a week and you give each other leads. I have attracted millions of dollars from my fellow BNI members giving me leads of other people that are looking for a high rate of return on their investment capital. So BNI, join other networking groups. Go to Google, search a networking group, in your local area. Meetups. That's free, right? So, how else can you grow your network very quickly? Well, did you know that self-directed IRA companies have networking events online on the internet? And did you know that 70% of account holders at self-directed IRA companies want to be a private lender for you? They want to be passive. They want to loan money out to real estate investors and just be a private lender and collect checks. Now, important note and a caveat. You're not going to put on your teacher hat. You're not putting on your teacher hat. Those are called existing private lenders. They already know what private money is. So now in talking with those people, it's going to be a negotiation conversation. Well, I don't like negotiation conversations on private lenders. That's why I prefer my own warm market. But that's another place you can find existing private lenders. And so there's three categories: your own warm market, your expanded warm market, and then existing private lenders, such as networking with people that are already private lenders, and they're in a they have a self-directed IRA account. So those are the three main categories where you find them: your existing warm market, your expanding warm market, and existing private lenders.
I'm also curious, Jay, because you have your podcast, you're out there on the internet quite a bit. Do people ever contact you through like socials or things like that about like, hey, I see you're this expert, how can I work with you?
Oh, sure. And I'm very active. I'm very active on Facebook. I've got my own YouTube channel, the podcast. I get a lot of response from the podcast, which, by the way, if you're interested in raising private money, and you're listening to this show, then I'm on all the platforms. The name of the podcast is Raising Private Money. Imagine that. Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. And my guess is if you just go to any platform that you've got that you listen to podcasts, just search for Raising Private Money, and I'm probably going to pop up right there. I have 2 shows a week, and I interview other people that have already raised private money and how they go about it.
It's wonderful. So it sounds like social media is maybe like another avenue people can use as they're building out their business, as they're kind of establishing their credentials.
Oh, absolutely. And here's a big tip on how to attract people to you to be a private lender. So just post on social, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can do TikTok, but the top ones are Facebook and Instagram. Just post what you're doing. Like if you're doing a project, if you're doing a property, if you're doing a house, no matter what you're doing, people are interested and show pictures. Like you can be showing here I'm rehabbing a house, and here's where we are, in this house. That's naturally going to attract people. And look, you can plant a seed. You can plant a seed or two that'll make the social audience curious. You can be posting, and then when you get to the end of a deal, you can post and say, look at this house. My private lender made X number of dollars. You're not going to call any names. My private lender who invested in this deal made, and you're not going to put interest rates, no interest rates, but make it very specific. My private lender that invested with me in this house made $8,923 in X number of months. And then you can ask a question. Want to talk money? So I'm not saying private money or private lending. I'm saying want to talk money, ? DM me, direct message me. And I'm telling you, showing it on social will attract them. And that's, attracting private lenders for free.
Oh, and that's such a good call to action too, because it's like mysterious. It sparks people's curiosity. I love it. Jay, thank you so much for joining me today. You have been a wealth of knowledge. Everyone should go and check out Jay's podcast, Raising Private Money, for so much more on private money. Jay, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you on social media as well, and how they might be able to work with you?
Sure. I tell you the best way, Kat. I'm so excited to share with your audience. I just launched my brand new Private Money Challenge. Well, what in the world is the Private Money Challenge? Well, it's 7 days of recorded videos I just did. And so here's the website, and I'm going to tell you what I have. It's www.privatemoneychallenge.com. privatemoneychallenge.com. And when you enroll, immediately in your inbox, in your email, you get the first video training on private money. And guess what? Each of these videos are only 15 to 20 minutes. And then the next 6 days at 9 a.m. Eastern, you'll get the follow-up video trainings. And I'm telling you, it's me on video in my real estate attorney's conference room, just going over step by step how this works. And so I promise you 2 things. Number one, you're going to learn how to raise $500,000 in less than 30 days in private money. And you're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it, because if I'm not having fun, I ain't going to do it. So come join me in the Private Money Challenge at www.privatemoneychallenge.com.
Awesome, Jay. And we will put that in the show notes so people can find it with just a click. Thank you so much.
Kat, thank you so much. It's been a joy to be with you.
Thank you for listening to The Closing Table, brought to you by Windowsill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our show, please feel free to leave us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/money guide. That's JCONNER.com/money guide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconnor.com/money guide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay